Hello friends, this is Odds, and today I'm going to do my best to give you a solid build on all killers from Trapper to Wesker, timestamps in the description if you want to skip to any of them in particular. And the idea here is to give you a build that is solid, works all around in most maps, in most situations, so that you can focus on just learning the killer and having fun instead of having to worry about which perks you're bringing constantly. I'll also give you a couple extra builds per killer, just in case any of them fits your personal playstyle better, or in case you are not equipped with all the perks in the game and you still don't have a lot of choices there. If you are new, however, and don't have a lot of teachables or any teachables unlocked, please do check out the spreadsheet down below. This spreadsheet includes all of the builds that you'll see here. It gets updated as frequently as I can, and also includes builds for people that have no teachables, information on killer, information on survivors, and a bunch of other things that I think you'll find useful. But that aside, we can actually get started with the Trapper. For Trapper, honestly, his most consistent builds probably do include Corrupt Intervention, a perk that blocks the faraway gens, giving you a bit of extra time to set up at the start. Do not set up too many traps at the start, you need to get moving, but this perk will let you get a bit of setup, meet survivors in the middle of the map, and not have lost 3 gens automatically. Deadlock is also another amazing pick for Trapper, since it will allow you to just slow down survivors wherever they are, however much they are split on generators, without really having to do anything, and buying you even a little bit of time in the mid game can make a big difference for Trapper. Save the Best for Last is the option that we brought in this build for lethality, something that will let you down survivors quicker in the mid and late game, especially late game. And your idea here is that if you catch the obsession in the trap, you will grab them. Anyone else that you catch in the trap, you will whack them with your basic attack and keep building up the stacks. There are so many reasons why Save the Best for Last is good on Trapper. If a survivor is hit and they make less distance away from you, that means that you can push them constantly into your perimeter and not let them get away into safety as often. Many reasons why Save the Best for Last is amazing on Trapper. You'll have to take my word on it, unless you want me to talk about it for 5 straight minutes. And then we have No Way Out, a perk that makes a lot of sense on Trapper, a killer that can actually trap exit gates. You could even delay them even more and make the exit gates take a very long time to open. And if you already have a lot of stacks to Save Best for Last, any situation, no matter who you have hooked in the endgame, can be tricky for survivors. So very simple idea of just slowing them down at the end and being able to come back from almost any game. The longer the game goes on for, the more chances you have to catch one survivor in a critical trap that turns everything around. Other options also exist for Trapper. A popular one is to run Agitation, a perk that lets him bring survivors back to basement, back to his trapped area, and also increases your terror radius while you carry. It's his own perk. You pair this with Starstruck from the Trickster. Now everyone in a 40-meter terror radius, well, actually, 32 plus 12, a 44-meter terror radius, correct me if I'm wrong. Now everyone in that huge terror radius is now Starstruck and afflicted with insta-down, with exposed status effect. That is pretty huge by itself, and that is your plan A, trying to force them to drop pallets, force them to use their resources when they get hit with Starstruck. But you also have a plan B of just using Agitation to reach a further hook with Pain, Resonance, and keep gens from regressing, and even have them block automatically with Deathman's Ridge. Simple build, but it can do wonders. And another strength of Trapper is using hexes. Hexes are easy to trap for the Trapper, and basically your idea with Blood Favor is to hit survivors, block away the nearby pallets, and then obviously you will use your traps in conjunction with this. You will trap windows and paths around windows and leave pallets relatively untrapped so that Blood Favor can hit them. When survivors try to get rid of this, they will probably cleanse Haunted Ground instead, or get this one done. Either way, it is good for you. When they have done multiple totems, you could use Haunted Ground to punish them and insta-down them, or Undying to protect Blood Favor longer. You will begin to set up Pentimental totems, which will slow the game down to a crawl. Don't forget, you can also trap these so that even if they come back to them, they have to deal with those traps first. And in the background, you simply have Deadlock, slowing the game down, keeping it stable for you and giving you more time to set up the Pentimentos and get them killed. That's the options for Trapper. Lots of variations can happen. Your idea with Trapper is that you want 1 or 2 delay perks, 1 perk to help you down people faster, and maybe some utility perk to bring people to basement or keep them from escaping your perimeter. That's pretty much it. And moving on to Wraith, we have a very simple and effective build consisting of these 4 beautiful perks. Lethal Pursuer will show you the auto of everyone at the start, giving you many options as to who you try to ambush first. You see a survivor running into a dead zone, that's a prime target for an ambush and an early hit. You see a mech walking next to a gen, that girl probably has sprint burst, maybe don't chase that girl just yet. So Lethal Pursuer almost guarantees that you'll catch one person off guard at the start, which is awesome, and it will also make other auto reading perks and items better. In this case, barbecue and chili. When you hook a survivor, you'll see people from afar, you'll see them heal, you'll see them do gens, you'll see them open get, you'll see them do a variety of things, and you will know what is best and how to best approach them from an angle that they don't quite expect. Super simple stuff. When you down someone, nearby gens will be afflicted by jolt and will begin to regress, giving you a little bit of information. And when you hook someone, you will also see with barbecue often how pain resonance makes people scream from gens and lets them get off of it. So basically, nearby gens get hit by jolt, far away gens get hit by pain resonance if you can find a scorch hook, and you will find those people with barbecue and chili. It feeds into itself. It's a build that's very cyclical and it's very easy to use. I highly recommend that. If you are a bit braver and you want to go for really naughty chasing ideas, bring Deadlock as a passive, or Corrupt Intervention as a passive form of just slowing down the game, and then give a shot to Blood Faber, maybe with Undying to protect it. When you hit a survivor after an ambush, they will instinctively try to run to a pallet and see it blocked, which limits their options. And if you keep doing that with Save the Best for Last, every time you hit them, they'll have less and less time to make it to a window because pallets around them will be blocked. Very aggressive build that can work wonders. Another idea that I actually really like with Wraith is this gen kicking oriented build. You have Discordance to find multiple people on a gen. Great. When you get to that, you're going to kick it and you will apply Dragon's Grip. Anyone that touches this generator will be afflicted with insta-down exposed status effect, which is really big. You can kick a gen that had 2 people in it, and then one of the 2 people that you didn't chase will come back, touch it, and now can be insta-down. If they don't touch the gem for 30 seconds, this perk does go on a very long cooldown, but if they don't do that, then the next perk hurts a lot. Call of Brine makes a gen regress much faster than normal when you kick it, so it's a win-win situation. If they touch it, they become insta-downable. If they don't touch it, the gen is eaten up a lot. And if then you down a person, Eruption will make that gen that you kick regress a bunch and even incapacitate people working on it. Very naughty build that can get you early downs on a killer that is very difficult to get early downs with. Next up, we move on to Billy, and a staple perk of Hillbilly is Bamboozle. This perk allows you to preemptively block a window by vaulting it, and also lets you vault it faster. And this is huge because if you block one strong window, you will not have survivors try to abuse it multiple times. They'll be forced to go for weaker windows, which you can then maybe play around, or pallets, which obviously you can shred through with your chainsaw. So not a lot of explanation needed there. Tinkerer, his own perk, is also amazing. You could replace this with Lethal, with Barbecue. Any info perk here would definitely work, but this will let you know when a gen is about to be done, and maybe even let you get in really close before they expect you, and use your chainsaw to get an insta-down. Deadlock and No Way Out are just extremely simple passive slowdown perks that don't require too much. Get some hooks, No Way Out gives you good endgame. Bother them a little bit here and there, and gens will be blocked passively. With Deadlock and Tinkerer together, you also ensure that you will never have 2 gens that are going to pop at the same time. If you hear 2 Tinkerers, you go for one. Even if they finish, the other one will be deadlocked, which means you don't have to be at 2 places at once, as the game sometimes asks you to. Very simple build. I think you can do no wrong with this. A more aggressive approach would include Lethal Pursuer, showing you the auto of everyone at the start and letting you zoom in into whoever you think is in the worst spot for maybe an early down. Anytime you hook someone, Barbecue and Chili will show you the auto of people from afar for even longer, thanks to Lethal's side effect. And then if it's a Scorch Hook, you will also regress a generator that has the most progress and potentially block it if they are not paying enough attention. Very simple, aggressive build with Scorch Hook, Barbecue, and Lethal. And another idea is to go a similar path of what we just explained with Wraith. We have Discordance to bother multiple people at a time. We still bring Bamboozle because we want to have that little bit of help and chase. And then the combination of Call of Brine and Eruption, which is a really nasty way of regressing gens. You down someone next to a gen, or they leave and you don't have a way to chase them. You kick that gen, maybe they get back to it. And if you at some point down someone in the next few seconds, Eruption will hit that gen and probably incapacitate that person for a very long time. If they don't get back to that gen, good, Call of Brine will eat it up in a very short amount of time. So this would be another option for Billy. Moving on to Nurse, you have tons and tons of options. Insta-down, stealth, information, auto-reading, whatever you can name, it works on Nurse in one way or another. If you want to go with an extremely simple build, Lethal Pursuer and Barbecue and Chili are great together. You will see survivors at the start. In some maps, easily be able to get a hit or a down very, very quickly into a match. This will also mean that Barbecue and Chili shows you survivors for 6 seconds, since Lethal enhances it, which will be good, reliable information all throughout the game. Anytime survivors do a gen, other survivors doing other gens will be inconvenienced by deadlock, which will lock the gen for 30 seconds. And in endgame, as long as you've hooked a few people, which you probably will, you have still a chance to make a huge comeback, even if things haven't gone your way, by hooking people, being very aggressive, preventing them from touching gates early, and using Barbecue to pick up whoever's left in the endgame. There you go. Super, super simple stuff. You cannot go wrong with this build. Alternatively, you might want to go for a more gen-oriented build. Tinkerer is a tricky perk on Nurse. Not having a terror radius is not that big of a deal for Nurse oftentimes, but it does allow you to sometimes get close to a swapper and get a grab out of a generator, or get an easy hit out of a generator. Once the generator is available to you, you can also kick it with Colorblind, which will make it regress very fast, and apply Eruption to it, which will mean that when you down someone else later, and you will, that gen will regress even more or even incapacitate someone working on it. And to top it all off, you can have Sloppy Butcher, so that every time you have people injured, it hurts even more to reset back to full health. Not a lot that survivors can do if you play this build really well. Another idea that is also very popular is to go with the combination of Agitation, Starstruck. Agitation will let you carry survivors to far away hooks, maybe Scorch hooks, easier, and also increase your terror radius, which will make a Starstruck hit all over the map as you traverse it. Anytime you pick up a survivor and you hook them or even drop them, anyone else around you, healthy or not, is in massive danger, which can lead to some insane snowballs, especially in small maps. But as a plan B, you can also use Agitation to get to a white hook and trigger Pain Resonance, a really strong regression perk. When they unhook, doesn't matter if you're in a chase or out of a chase, they will trigger Floods of Rage, which will show you the autos of everyone other than the person being unhooked. This will help you to find someone if you're not in chase, or immediately X-ray someone through a wall if you are in chase. So this is a very disgusting build for Nurse if you want to try it. And there's many variations where you could switch out Floods for Awakened Awareness. There's a perk from Wesker that lets you see around you. There's so many variations of this build. You probably can't go wrong with any of them. Moving on to Huntress. I am very fond of having Lethal Pursuer on her to see where people are at the start, although other options like Discordance or Corrupt Intervention to block gens far away or find groups of survivors are also completely viable. Darkness Reveal is also a personal favorite of mine. Anytime you reload, and you will see people around the map, sometimes hiding in places where they don't expect to be found, and we all know what happens when a Huntress catches you off guard in a place with not a lot of safety. So Darkness Reveal and Lethal Pursuer are a nice combination as well, because Darkness Reveal will show you people for 7 seconds instead of 5, thanks to the lethal side effect. So that's really good. And then we simply have passive slowdown perks like Deadlock. Especially if you're bothering people around gens and they're not being very efficient, this perk will hurt them. And No Way Out, allowing you to still have a chance to come back and do a lot of damage in the endgame, as long as you've gotten a few hooks. This perk typically stings in endgame for survivors. Many options are available for Hunters. However, auto reading and information are popular. I also think that you would benefit greatly from Agitation together with the 2 Scorch hook perks that hurt the most. Agitation will let you hook faster, true, but it will also allow you to get close to where gens are being done, to make Deadman Switch more annoying, to put survivors in the basement sometimes, which is a really difficult place to come out of against a good Huntress, and to make it to just normal white hooks to trigger Pain Resonance and Floods of Rage, which will regress generators and show you the autos of everyone, which again, for Hunters, is a powerful thing. If you want to have a more aggressive build, Corrupt Intervention can give you a bit of a head start to meet survivors in the middle of the map. And Blood Favor is also a really good pick. You could pick it, you could bring it by itself, or you could even pair it with Undying, and even Undying Pentimento if you want to go full commitment on getting those first down. Blood Favor will trigger when you injure a survivor with your hatchet. or with your normal attack, typically better with your hatchet, and then they will not be able to pre-drop pallets in front of you. They will need to use windows. And Huntress, if she has a good line of sight, can completely destroy you if you're trying to vault a window in front of her. So Blood Favor is an interesting perk. In this particular build, we're bringing it by itself with Colubrine and Eruption. You block 3 out of 7 generators. There's only 4 to defend. Hopefully you get a first down quickly with Blood Favor, and then you can use Colubrine or Eruption to harass those 4 gens, keep them from being completed. That being said, if you're learning Hunters, do give a shot to auto reading perks like Lethal Pursuer, Bitter Murmur, Barbecue, and Chili. All of these perks are great to learn to do shots across the map, which is really, really fun. Next up, we have Myers, and this build might seem a little bit strange, but I really swear by it. We have Corrupt Intervention, block away the further gens, force the survivors to move into the map, give you a chance to catch one of them in the open, and tier up to Evil Within Tier 2. Super, super, super important that you get into Tier 2 as soon as possible with Myers, and Corrupt is one of the best ways to do so. Once they begin to do gens here and there, you'll hopefully try to split them up, and Deadlock will also buy you time without you having to do much, which is great. And Tinkerer is a strange perk, because Myers, in most of his stages, has a small turret radius, so you would think that Tinkerer wouldn't be so good. But the nice thing about Tinkerer is that it gives you options and gives you information on when to use your power. If you tiered up on a survivor that is in a really, really strong spot with Corrupt Intervention, you probably don't want to commit to that survivor. If you hear Tinkerer, you can now leave your tier 2 99, go for someone else, and then catch them while they're doing a gen, committing to those final seconds, and down them before they can pop it. Alternatively, you can also down a survivor, and while you are looking to do something during your 60 seconds of tier 3, Tinkerer triggers, and now your big turret radius of 32 meters goes down to nothing, and you have a chance to get multiple downs with a single tier 3. The information alone from Tinkerer is good, and the turret radius reduction is just a bonus. No Way Out is also a very safe perk. You hook a few people in the end game, you are still a menace, and oftentimes survivors will fail to play around it. So if you want a very simple, bare bones, reliable build, I reckon this is it. Another idea, instead of Corrupt Intervention, is to bring Lethal Pursuer so that you can just find survivors at the start. If one of them is in a particular bad spot, you go for that person, get tier 2 as soon as possible. The nice thing about that is that we also have Jolt and Pain Resonance. When we down a survivor with or without our tier 3, any gen nearby will regress, and if we have a wide hook nearby, awesome. Far away gens might also regress on top of that with Pain Resonance. This will also be further enhanced by Surveillance. Surveillance lets you know when a generator is regressing and lets you know when it's being touched. And Surveillance, Pain Res, Surveillance, Jolt has beautiful synergies. You can down a survivor, look around you, and see exactly what is happening. As a killer with a small turret radius, the fact that Surveillance also makes you hear gens being worked on from further is a big deal. You can get very close to a survivor, especially with some add-ons on other perks, and hear them working on a gen, know 100% that they're there at the start of the game, perhaps, before they can even see or hear you, which is a pretty big deal on Myers. So you hook a survivor, no one's around you, you hook them on a wide hook. Surveillance will turn that gen in the other side of the map yellow, letting you know that you need to go there. So this is a very, very simple build. Tells you what to do at the start, tells you what's going on around you, tells you what's going on from afar, and gives you a good idea of when you should save or unleash your tier 3. Another idea is to simply divide and conquer with Discordance and Deadlock. Find multiple survivors at the start, get a good chance to get to tier 2, force survivors to split up, because anytime they trigger Discordance, since it's a perk that reveals multiple survivors on a gen, you will be there to harass them. And when they split up on generators, Deadlock becomes even more annoying. Discordant also gives you a really good chance to find multiple survivors, and among them might be your obsession. If you find your obsession with play with your food, you can begin to stalk them, and you lose chase while stalking. So you can get stacks of play with your food, and then be very fast for a very long time, and get 2 or 3 stacks, down a person, chase another person who is very, very confident that they can outrun you, but they can't because you are faster than they realize. And if you want to go the extra mile of being unpredictable in chase, you could also bring Bamboozle, a perk that stacks with Myers' natural faster vaulting speed, blocks windows, and makes you vault very, very fast through them. It's a nice chasing-oriented build for Myers that can be customized heavily to your liking. Next up is the Hag. And the Hag can be very difficult to play, and you definitely need to adapt to what survivors do and what the map you have is. So any build I give you, you'll need to still use your brain. Corrupt Intervention is a great perk to block away further gens and force survivors to come to you and not slam multiple gens while you set up, but you need to be very, very smart. While you use Corrupt, I really do advise that you don't immediately go into chases. You still need to set up, and you need to be very resilient to survivors messing with you. So use Corrupt, sure, but be smart about it. Deadlock is also an amazing perk on Hag, maybe her best perk right now. You do your thing, you set up your traps, you set up your perimeter, survivors do gens, and they can't do it as fast because Deadlock gets in the way without you having to worry about anything. Franklin's is a perk that I recommend if you see multiple medkits, a few flashlights, maybe a toolbox or two. Do bring Franklin's. Survivors are goblins for their items. They will often die trying to get them back. And if you make them lose charges on medkits, that is very, very valuable. And if they lose flashlights, that's also a source they have to disarm your traps. However, obviously, if you don't see any items, Sloppy Butcher is a fine replacement. Jolt can work out. Haunted Ground is a perk that can let you insta-down survivors and can be really useful in this situation as well. Since they have Corrupt, they will be brought into the middle of the map where they might find these haunted grounds and maybe give you an early down because of it. And of course, Noid is a disgusting perk. If you plan for it as a Hag, Noid alone can win you entire games. Place a trap leading to the exit gate, place a trap in the edges of the map here and there in anticipation for the Noid, and even a team that's been kicking your ass can quickly go down to this very nasty perk in the endgame and not be able to recover from it. So that would be my advice. If you struggle with survivors messing with you super early and you don't think Corrupt helps you, there are alternatives. I highly recommend bringing Save the Best for Last. Anytime you hit a survivor, you will recover faster from your attacks. In some maps, this can be very disgusting. And we have the combination of Blood Favor and Undying. Undying is basically like a second life for Blood Favor. And this is a perk that when you hit a survivor, pallets around you will be blocked. This can let you get hits and downs in areas that you haven't even trapped, which is a very big deal because getting a down first early is what makes Hag really strong when she begins to defend something. Until you have your first down, as a Hag, you're not doing so well. Eventually, survivors will learn about this perk, will want to cleanse it, they'll have to go through Undying, then they'll cleanse it Blood Favor, and at that point, hopefully you have a couple downs and you begin to set up Pentimentos and then trap them. Pentimentos will slow down the game a lot, making the mid-game potentially very, very nasty. Overall, very aggressive build. If you know how to use it, can be very effective. And also, Hag benefits quite a bit from many endgame perks. We're going to bring the MVP Deadlock perk. Anytime a gen gets done, the other gen with most progress will get blocked. Every time a gen gets done, not only that, you can look around and see Deadlock to get that information. You will also be able to look around and see Rancor. This will obviously tell you where everyone is, but also let them know where you are. So watch out for that. That little bit of information on Hag, believe it or not, is very useful. If you're about to hook a person and you look around the map and you see that they're all far away, you can set up a lot more. If you see that they're all close, maybe you can catch them off guard and push them into a trap that you previously set. So Rancor information on Hag, generally quite good. The nice thing about Rancor is that solo players will not see it coming and make mistakes because of this, because they won't be talking to the Obsession. And teams will actually try to play around Rancor. The people that are healthy will come and take hits. The people that are not the Obsession will try to die because they want to prevent Rancor from triggering an endgame, and that's where Terminus comes in. When there is a Terminus Rancor, I guarantee you survivors are going to open gates very, very quickly, and they might not see Bloodwarden or No Way Out or other endgames perks coming. And that is a beautiful combination. You have a person on the hook, the Obsession will try to open gates, they'll probably link it around a little bit, they will want to open the gate to get rid of Terminus's effect, which keeps them injured and unable to heal, and then you might just catch them with Bloodwarden and Mori and insta-down a person, even if you've never touched them throughout the game. So that's a fun little idea on Hag if you want to go the endgame route. Moving on to the Doctor. He has a variety of builds that are all extremely mean and viable with the right add-ons. I'm going to give you some relatively vanilla ones, but I'm sure you can find many others as well. Say the Best for Last on Doctor is just incredible. If you can focus on people that are not your Obsession, you can hit them before they make it far. You can shock them, lock them in place, hit them again. In some instances, you can even shock, hit, and then grab or hit again with many stacks of Say the Best for Last. This perk is just an amazing perk for Chase, and it works beautifully on the Doctor. With Discordant, you will know where multiple people are, so you can shock them all at once, which is a big deal, and also focus on whoever's not the Obsession in that group. awesome stuff. Needless to say, anytime you down, with Sedwa's Blast, this will happen more and more. Anytime you down multiple survivors in the same spot, the gens will be absolutely decimated by Jolt, which is a really big deal. And if you keep survivors in average madness of 2, 1, as long as you make sure that multiple survivors have madness, and you will thanks to Discordance, Merciless Storm is a really nice support perk. With a bit of madness, hitting the skill trees of Merciless Storms becomes very difficult to do consistently, especially for survivors that are a little bit newer and are not super accustomed to it. So you have a perk here to block gens without you doing much, a perk to regress gens, a perk to find them, a perk to down them. Very solid build all around. If you want to really lean on the blockage of generators instead, you can bring Deadman Switch and Merciless Storm together. Anytime you hook a survivor, you go around, you blast, you force kick people off gens and trigger Deadman Switch, even by itself. Merciless Storm has a similar idea as we said before, and then on top of that, we have No It to insta-down people at the end of the game, and No Way Out to lock them in with us for much longer. Good stuff. And this is the build we use to keep a very, very long streak going on Doctor. Another idea, if you're absolutely evil, is to go the Hex route and bring Devour, a perk that will let you insta-down on Mori people. With them dying, which is a second life perk to protect it, and Thrill the Hunt. This is a perk that not a lot of people try, and it's actually really, really mean. This perk will make it so doing totems takes a very, very long time. And don't forget, you can interrupt people doing totems anytime with your blast. So if you have this perk up and you blast every now and then on totems, even people actively trying to do them will have a hard time. It also makes Blessing for boons much longer, which is a big downside. So you have these perks, you try to hook people, stay away from them to trigger Devour, make it really dangerous, and all the while Jolt is helping you. If it ever comes to a point where Devour gets 3 stacks and you insta-down, then Jolt becomes really, really strong. And while survivors are scattering, trying to find the totems, you're insta-downing them, insta-regressing gens around them maybe multiple times, and it's a pretty big deal. On top of this, Doctor has a variety of impossible skill check builds that typically rely on some add-ons and some other perks. Those builds definitely work better in some maps than other, but feel free to try them. They're all really, really decent if you know what you're doing. Next up is Cannibal, and similar to Hillbilly, Cannibal does rely a little bit on Bamboozle. Sometimes a survivor will find a structure with a strong window, like Shack, and if you let them, they will vault it 3 times until it's blocked and force you to M1 them. With Bamboozle, you can preemptively lock such windows to force them into other weaker windows or into using pallets, which then you can break with your chainsaw. So that perk doesn't need much more introduction. And then we just have the very simple Discordance, Deadlock, No Way Out. Tell you where multiple people are, maybe one of them messes up, maybe one of them hides behind the gen thinking you haven't seen them, bam, they go down. If you divide survivors that are working together with Discordance, you force them into different gens, and then Deadlock becomes very annoying. And plus, you don't have to worry about doing anything. It does most of the job for you. And then at the end of the game, if you need to secure a kill for a little bit longer, you still have No Way Out to keep survivors locked in with you and have an even better chance to come back, even if the game hasn't gone your way. Super simple build with a lot of options to customize. You don't have Discordance, you can bring Tinkerer. You don't have Tinkerer, you can bring Barbecue and Chili. You can change this build around as much as you like, and it would still mostly work. A similar idea to what we just had would be to bring Bamboozle with these 3 other perks. Lethal Pursuer, see everyone at the start, pick the person that is in the worst possible spot, have an idea where the other ones are, so that if you give up on the first or down the first, you now go for the others and keep the whole team under pressure. Anytime you're on a gen, you kick it. It regresses faster with Call of Brine. If you then down someone else, which you are likely to do with a chainsaw sometimes unpredictably, bam! Eruption hits that gen, incapacitates anyone on it, makes it regress by a bunch, and start regressing. Big deal. And another idea is to also just lean on your strengths with Basement and bring Scorch Hook ideas. With Agitation, you can bring people into Basement from very far away as your plan A, or bring them into White Hooks anywhere on the map as your plan B. If you bring them into a White Hook, Pain Resonance will trigger, hurting the gens nearby. If they're not very careful, they will also trigger Deadman Switch, which will block gens from across the map, which is one of your main weaknesses as a Cannibal. You cannot be everywhere on the map. So Deadman Switch, Pain Res can do damage and stall the game across big distances. And with Monster Shrine, you also turn basement hooks into Pain Resonance, which means that you can hook a survivor in the basement, slow down the game passively, and then if you decide, you don't have to, but if you decide to play around that basement, they will have a really hard time coming out because you're the Cannibal and you have a chainsaw. But yeah, this is a really good idea. If you don't like the idea of staying in the basement, you can just take off Agitation, go back to Bamboozle, you can take out Monster Shine, have some other track and perk like Tinker or Barbecue, and that would still work. Lots of options on Cannibal. Most of them, though, have to do something with blocking windows because that's one of his weaknesses. Next up is Freddy the Nightmare. And for him, I have a very simple build that works pretty well. It has Save the Best for Last, a perk that will let you recover faster once you hit a survivor that is not your obsession multiple times. It is great. It is an amazing thing to be able to hit a survivor and then catch up really quickly, force them to use a subpar loop, which you can then trap with snares. So Save the Best for Last is great. And when it has a lot of stacks, you can hit survivors, and maybe get multiple downs around hooks or around contested areas quickly, which will make Jolt trigger multiple times, which is a pretty big deal. The only downside of Save the Best for Last is that you kind of need to play around your obsession. Try not to hit them as much as the other survivors. If you do that, this perk really is worth bringing. So when you down a survivor, gens around you will be regressed, and gens far away from you can also be regressed if you find a white hook with Pain Resonance. Either way, if a gen is hit by Pain Res or Jolt, or both, Surveillance will make that gen change colors. And if you know how to correctly identify all of these colors and react to all of this build is awesome. You down people, you look at a gen, it's white, okay, it's regressing, ignore it, go for another one. You see a generator turn yellow, someone got on it. They are oblivious. They don't hear your terror radios. You get close to them. They know you're close, but they don't know how close. And Surveillance lets you hear them working on the gen from further, which is a really nice thing for a killer that is semi-stealthy like Freddy when they are asleep. All of these perks work really well together, and they are very simple. They make a very simple build. A more common standard build might be something like this. Corrupt Intervention forces survivors to go around the map and waste a little bit of time, makes them fall asleep sooner without slamming too many gens, which gives you a chance to use your powers. Awesome. You then have Brutal Strength. If you catch a survivor early on, you can get rid of some pallets, which will hurt later. And you also kick gens faster, which is relevant because we're going to be using Eruption and Calobrine. Anytime you down a survivor or have a little break, you kick a gen, it regresses much faster with Calobrine, and it can explode and regress even faster and incapacitate survivors if someone gets back on it. Super simple stuff. Another really simple build. This is like, I don't want to think, I want to play Freddy, I want to turn my brain off type deal. We have Corrupt, good for the same reasons as before. Enduring Spirit Fury, you just swing through every pallet, get stunned, nothing matters, break the pallet, next time pallet breaks, easy down. And Deadlock, to block gens from a distance if you just really don't want to use your brain at all. This is always a build you can rely on. Next up is Pig, and the Pig has a special attack, which is really cute, but if you're not a purist and you don't mind not using that special attack too much, this is a very solid build. If you find your obsession and they're completely in the open, use your special attack, you don't lose or gain stacks on Save the Best for Last, and if you find anyone else, you hit them with Save the Best for Last. Being able to recover very fast with a Pig is an amazing thing. It lets you handle situations where survivors are body blocking for each other or they're all being clumsy around boxes. Save the Best for Last stacks on Pig are just great. Anytime a generator is close to being done, Tinkerer will let you know. You don't need to even use your stealth, which is slow, just to go there. The stealth part from Tinkerer is not what we're interested in. Mostly it's the information. When you know a gen is about to go, you know whether or not you want to put a trap down or save it for later. Typically you want to put them down, and you can also go there, catch them off guard, maybe get a grab, maybe get some free hits which with Save the Best for Last can be very devastating. On top of that, you will never have situations where you down a survivor and 3 gens pop at the same time. Deadlock will give you a bit of time between gen pops, which makes sure that every trap that you apply to a survivor has a higher chance to be active, and you won't have 2 traps left at the end of the game with all the gens gone. So Deadlock helps a lot in that regard. And No Way Out is also an amazing perk on the pig. You can have 3 survivors alive at the end of the game. One of them has a trap. They can't do anything. They can't open the gates and leave. They have to stick around. And meanwhile, you can use your Save the Best for Last stacks to kill someone else and still catch them. So very simple build that covers most of her weaknesses and gives her plenty of chances to do a lot in even in some really unfavorable maps. Another idea that you can go with, which is a bit more standard, is to have Corrupt Intervention, force survivors to come into the middle of the map, find them. If you're in chase and they pre-drop pallets, which is one of your weaknesses, Brutal Strength will let you get rid of them. Anytime survivors have traps on their head, you will have a survivor that is not doing gens typically, that is trying to get rid of it, and only 3 survivors are working on gens. That makes Eruption and Cannibal so much more poignant, so much more difficult to deal with, because you can kill a gen and know that there's only 3 people that can take care of it at a time, and Cannibal will make it regress a lot, and if they somehow get back to it, Eruption can incapacitate them and make the gen regress if you get it down elsewhere. This also makes it really punishing if you catch a survivor on a box and they go down, that Eruption maybe can hit multiple gens at a time. And another idea that is fairly evil is to have Lethal Pursuer. Immediately get into a chase right away. If you see someone next to one of your totems, go for that person first. Make sure they don't get the totems, specifically Devour early on, and get into your first chase very early. If you manage to get a couple hooks early on, Devour becomes a big threat where they'll have to worry about being insta-down, they'll have to worry about doing gens, they'll have to worry about someone they don't hook, they'll have to worry about maybe even Morris. Not just that, but the people that you hook will have Plaything on them, which means that while they do boxes, they are confused, they don't hear terror radios, whether it's dead or not, which leads them sometimes to running right into you or going for rescues, not realizing that you're right there. In indoor maps, particularly nasty. If they get rid of Devour, or if they get rid of one of the playthings that you'll be giving them, then you start hitting them with Pentimento by lighting up the destroyed totems and slowing the game down to a crawl. And that is just evil. Moving on, we have Clown, and we're going with a very aggressive build. The main downside of playing Clown is that you have a strong chasing power, but you cannot be in multiple places at once. So you want to make sure that you're regressing or stalling gens from afar when possible, and finding multiple survivors so that you don't have one person in chase and 3 people slamming gens across the map. With Discordants, you'll find multiple survivors. If one of them is not the obsession, great. Stick to that person. Get Save the Best for Last stacks. Save the Best for Last stacks on Clown are disgusting. He can hit you, recover fast, throw a bottle, not let you get anywhere, down you again in seconds sometimes. Very good perk on him if you can avoid the obsession a little bit. If you down people fast, you will also trigger Jolt multiple times since it doesn't have a cooldown, and make any gen around you regress very aggressively sometimes. And if you're lucky, on top of that, maybe you'll have a white hook and bam, you use Pain Resonance, and maybe you regress gens even across the map so that you have a bit more time to do your thing. Simple build on Clown. Another idea is to go with Corrupt Intervention to just block away the far gens, push them into you. Bring Agitation, which will increase your terror radius while you carry and let you carry faster. And then you have a plan A and a plan B. The plan A is that you apply Starstruck to anyone around you, so that when you hook someone, anyone else you go into a chase with is in danger, because even if they're healthy, they're now exposed and can be insta-down. And the plan B is that you also have Pain Resonance. So if a white hook is far away, you get there, bam, minus 15% on the most progress gen. Sometimes you'll be able to do both of these things simultaneously, which is pretty nutty. And another idea here is to go with a very, very aggressive Hex builds. We have Deadlock in the background, slowing down the gens a little bit, giving us more time to get our stacks. Haunted, a trap Hex that will let you insta-down survivors if they trigger it. And then Devour Hope and Undying. Undying will protect Devour Hope if it's done first, and it will also protect Haunted Ground if it's done first. So there is a chance that survivors could trigger Haunted Ground twice, which is nuts. And then Devour Hope, of course, will let you insta-down survivors if you get a few hooks, and even more them if they let you get away with it. With this build, survivors need to not go down at the start, find the totem, or not give you any downs whatsoever. As long as you get a few couple chases, they will either need to play extremely well or get rid of all these totems at once, which is really risky and really difficult. So this will punish survivors that are trying to rush objectives and ignore your totems. Can be really, really devastating on them. Next up is Spirit, and Spirit is a really strong 1v1 killer with sometimes even really big mobility, depending on the add-ons and so on. So you want perks on her that are reliable. Sloppy Butcher is an absolute smash hit on her. Anytime you injure survivors, it is really, really difficult for them to heal up quicker, especially if they don't have strong medkits. If you see very strong medkits, you might want to instead opt for Franklin's or some insta-down perk instead. But if you don't, Sloppy Butcher will certainly hurt a lot. Anytime they're injured, they just take longer to heal, and trust me, against Spirit, they want to heal. We then have Deadlock and Discordance, Divide and Conquer, find multiple survivors, bother multiple of them. If you down one, Jolt hits a gen where multiple survivors were trying to get repairs done. Nasty, good stuff. If they split up on different gens across the map, which they should, then Deadlock will lock them when they complete one, they'll lock the other, and it will punish them a little bit more. So this whole build is very simple stuff. You follow Discordance to find survivors, you down them near them, Joel hits, Sloppy hits, Deadlock delays them. Nothing super fancy. That's all there is to this build. Another alternative is to bring Deadlock to slow down the game while you try to get as many hooks and even kills as possible, and then have a winning endgame build. With Awakened Awareness, anytime you pick up a survivor, you'll see people around you, which throughout the game will be useful, and in the endgame will be dangerous, because you can have know it, down a survivor, pick them up if they're dead on hook, and then go around the map and see people through walls at a time where they're really not going to expect Awakened Awareness. You can then drop the survivor and go for someone else and be very aggressive while you have the insurance from No Way Out that they won't be able to open gates really quickly. So get a few hooks, maybe a kill, and in the endgame, Awakened Awareness, No Way Out will probably make most teams crumble. Another idea that you can go for is a more aggressive chase-oriented one. We again have Deadlock. Why not? Super strong stalling perk with Blood Favor this time. Anytime you hit a survivor, their pallets will be blocked around them. Most of the times when you hit a survivor with Spirit, they don't react and move as well as they do against some other killers because of the unpredictability of her phasing. And you can then use that time to recharge your power, chase them normally, play around windows, and Blood Favor is also protected by Undying. So this can let you get downs in places where normally survivors would be able to stall you a lot. Say you go to an indoor map like The Game, they can no longer take a hit and then go upstairs and drop a pallet. Same on Badham. Many pallets like this that could stall you just no longer work. And if they try to get rid of it, they have to go through Undying first. And if they get rid of it still, you have Pentimental to slow down the game in the mid stage of the game and be very, very nasty. And yeah, many other insta-down builds work on Spirit. Find something that helps. Some people do swear by using the perk Strider on Spirit. It is a perk that lets you hear survivors louder. I don't think it's necessary. I think it will throw you off. Most people don't use Iron Will anyway, so I don't recommend it personally, but completely up to you. If you have success with that, please let me know and tell me why. Next up is the Legion. And for Legion, I have a build that is amazing for beginners in its beautiful simplicity. We have Surveillance, a perk that lights up and tells you what a gen is doing. If it's white, it's going down. If it's yellow, it just got touched after going down. And you have 3 perks to make gens go down. We have Ruin, a perk that makes generators regress automatically. Pain Res, a perk that makes gens regress. If you hook on white hooks anywhere on the map, the most progress gen will begin to regress. And Jolt, you know how it works. You down a survivor with your power. With your basic attack, gens around you regress. All of these perks makes gens go down, and Surveillance tells you where these gens are being done. Simple as that. With all of these perks on, you will constantly have information of where to go and how to harass them. And the nice thing about Ruin is that even if they tap a generator quickly, they will then probably have to mend. If you hit survivors constantly with your power, they will need time to just stop what they're doing, let go of a gen, and then mend. And when they do that, bang, Surveillance tells you that someone is nearby. So this is a super, super simple build. You just know how to interpret Surveillance and let all of your perks do the regression for you. You just need to follow the colors a little bit and play a very basic Legion to get good results with this. A slightly less complicated build that is also very simple is like this. It's the following. We have Lethal Pursuer. You see everyone at the start. If you identify 3 or even 4 survivors that are in a really tight space, you're going to get there right away and try to hit 1, 2, and 3 and then try to do that in an order that locks them in place and lets you get 3 or 4 hits. If you get 4 hits, bang, hit them a 5th time, someone goes down. Excellent starting perk for Legion. This perk also enhances other auto-reading add-ons and perks, and that's where Amalir's comes in. Let's say that your plan A fails and you don't get a 4-hit chain Feral Frenzy hit. That's okay. Get a couple of them injured, get in chase with one of them, whoever's in the worst spot, and if they take you to a strong jungle gym or a shack or somewhere where visibility is hard, Amalir's can be crazy effective. You let a survivor vault, you hide yourself behind a wall, you see their aura, which will last 8 seconds, and then you come from an angle they don't expect and get a little mind game of sorts. This can help you down survivors that are typically really, really good, because you just play in an unpredictable way and their little plan fails. So Amalir's is a great chase perk to help end chases, which is the Legion's weaknesses, really. You need to end chases once you get them injured. And in the background, we have Deadlock, perk to block gens passively, and No Way Out, perk to slow down the exit gates at the end of the game if you've gotten a few hooks, passively as well, pretty much. There you go. Super simple build if you don't want to overthink it. If you want to go a bit more complex, we do have this one here, which I'm very happy about this build. I think it's really fun. Discordance, his own perk will let you know where multiple people are, which is easy hits. And then we have the combo of Thrill and Tremors and Jolt. With Jolt, you'll regress gens around you, and when you pick up, you will see those gens will block, which means no one can tap them quickly. It does have a slight anti-synergy, but the nice part about Thrill and Tremors is that it lets you know which other gens are far away being done. Then you go towards those generators. And then comes the Devour Hope, a perk that you don't expect on Legion, but it's actually quite good. If you get this perk to 2 totems, the speed boost that you get from the Devour Hope is actually useful. Get a couple people injured, hook a survivor, get into a chase. No one expects you as a Legion to have play with your foot style speed. So Devour Hope can make your 3rd and 4th chases much shorter than survivors expect. When you get to the point where you insta-down, people have to drop what they're doing, and Jolt becomes really scary. Not expected on Legion, so if they ignore this totem and they don't find it, it can be a real game changer. And even if they do find it, you have a set of perks that is still reliable, even if you're missing Devour Hope. But, you know, lots of other things work on Legion, so I'm sure you'll find another build if none of these convince you. We then have the Plague. And for the Plague, honestly, go simple. Go with these stupid, reliable perks that can do you no wrong. The combination of Discordance and Tinkerer is a little bit odd. You might think that this is too much information, but on this killer, this is the right kind of precise information that you want. If you don't have your power, if you just have your green puke, Discordance and Tinkerer are awesome. With Discordance, you go to a gen, you puke on it, now 2 people can work on it, maybe they both get infected, maybe they both are in a bad spot and you get a hit on top of that. Awesome. With Tinkerer, if people, none of them cleanse and they stay on gens, you are now a killer with no terror radius that can easily sneak up on people while they try to finish a gen. Awesome. But the best part is that these perks are great because they always are giving you information. And they give you information when you leave survivors alone for a little bit. This is the perfect set of perks to have when you pick up your fountains. Especially if you bring add-ons to have extra fountains or they cleanse at the start. These 2 perks almost always tell you something at any given point. You pick up your fountain, 1 Tinkerer or 1 Discordance is going to trigger in the next few seconds, almost guaranteed. So with these 2 perks, you always know what's going on. And if you have your red puke, you can go and harass and down multiple people that don't expect it. And it is extremely powerful. Tinkerer also has nice synergy with Deadlock. If you hear 2 Tinkerers at once, you don't have to worry about 2 gens popping at the same time. One of them will pop, maybe, but then the other one will be blocked, which is awesome. So you have a nice slowdown perk or stalling perk that you don't have to really do much about. And if you listen to your Tinkerers, you can make every gen very hard to do. This allows you to play super aggressive. You also don't have to worry too much about who you hook because you're very good at defending hooks. In an endgame situation, you can easily, with a red puke, make an unhooking very difficult. And on top of that, we have No Way Out so that you can still make a massacre last minute if things go wrong. You cannot go wrong with this build. I think it's super reliable. But the Plague does have some strength that other builds can make even more apparent. If you have Lethal Pursuer, you can be extremely aggressive and immediately try to infect or even down people with your red puke at the start. Add to that Pain Resonance, Floods of Rage, and you have easy ways to regress gens without going out of your way much, and easy information. You hook a survivor, you regress a gen without doing nothing, you go to a fountain, you pick it up, survivors use that time to unhook, and now Floods tells you where everyone is, letting you do disastrous amount of damage to the survivors. And then you can also have No Way Out here or any other perk that you'd like to support this playstyle. Honestly, tons of options here. And if you want to be a little bit different from other plagues, Crowd Control and Blood Favor are disgusting perks. Anytime you injure a survivor with a basic attack or a special attack, pallets around them block. If the pallets are blocked, they can't drop them on you. If they can't drop them on you, they can't stun you out of your power, which is a thing that play has to worry about. And Crowd Control is an amazing perk in early game, and even late game if you have your red puke, because you can chase a survivor, and after 5 seconds of chase, they cannot take advantage of one strong window in a tall gym or tall structure, and now they have to go in the open, and now you can just close the gap and down them with your red puke. If they try to get rid of these perks, Undying protects them, and then Pentimento can be used on any missing totem to slow down the game to an absolute crawl. Not only that, you can actually puke on your totems. So one thing you could easily do, you hook a survivor, there's a totem right there. You puke on the totem, and for the next few seconds, no one can touch that without getting infected. And if they're all infected, these perks will really, really hurt. But many other options are available on Plague. Outer Reading, I think you should definitely go for. Don't make the mistake of trying to go for lame slowdown like Thanatophobia. Don't rely on survivors all being injured. Be very proactive and you'll get the best results on Plague. Moving on to the Ghostface. Tons of options. I recommend that you have something early on to find groups of survivors or make them come to you. Corrupt, Discordance, or even Lethal can be really good, especially if you have other perks to read auras or add-ons to read auras. I recommend Lethal so that you know where to go and catch a group of survivors at the start. Deadlock will simply slow down the game for you without doing much. And Eruption on Ghostface is also really powerful. If a gen is being contested and you know that many people are close to being fully marked and maybe down unpredictably, kick that generator around. Someone makes a mistake of crossing your path, bam, insta down, insta regression, insta incapacitation to anyone working on that gen. And you can also bring No Way Out as a way to defend your endgame and have a very well rounded out build. But there's other options. This build is very, very vanilla. You block the further gens, which forces survivors to run into you. Once you block the 3 furthest gens, you're going to look at the 2 or 3 gens that are closest to the survivor's spawning point, and you're going to try to catch them there at the start. So even without lethal, you will have an idea of where they are, and hopefully you catch one of them a little bit off guard and they get exposed. Anytime you hook a survivor, you will see far away with Barbecue who is healing, and they'll take longer to heal with Sloppy, who's doing gens, and maybe you can creep up to them, or who's opening gates, or so on. So you use that information with Barbecue to catch up to them, use your power at the right time. And if you down someone and gens are being done around you, you also have Jolt. And don't forget, sometimes survivors are stupid, they don't realize that they're nearly marked, they show up in front of you, and bam, you get a down, quickly followed by another one. And Jolt has no cooldown, so -8, -8, quickly on multiple gens at a time. Very, very good stuff. And even simpler build that honestly is a really good contender for best build is this one right here. With Discordance, we find multiple survivors. If they're working on gens, that's how we find them. And with Nurse's Calling, we find people healing. Unless they have certain perks like Distortion, you will see them with Nurse's Calling. So survivors on gens, we find with Discordance. Survivors on healing, we find with Nurses. Survivors on gens, we regress with Jolt. And survivors healing, we slow down with Sloppy Butcher. That's it. You hit survivors, you play however you want, you use whatever add-ons you like. Whenever you down people, Jolt hurts gens. Whenever you hit people, Sloppy hurts their healing speed. And then you have Nurses and Discordance to keep up with them. Extremely simple and easy to follow, and honestly a great place to start if it looks like something that you'd want to do with Ghostface. Next up, Demogorgon, a killer that you can only have if you bought him back in the day or if you bought some code. This build is stupid good. Say the Best for Last is great on him. Against the greater teams that make it really difficult to get him once, this perk can fail, but on average, against average teams, this perk is incredible. Hit survivors, the Obsession, you hit them with them too, and then in the mid to late game, you can hit a survivor, prepare your attack, and then down them with your M2 seconds or even 1 second later. Pretty much. It's really, really, really strong. Deadlock will block gens, giving you time to build up Say the Best for Last stacks and listening to Tinkerer. Tinkerer and Deadlock have a nice synergy of letting you know when multiple gens are being done and having the safety that they're not going to pop at the same time, which lets you be where you need to be and not have to worry about being in 2 places at once. Tinkerer also lets you sneak up on survivors to get a grab or secure a cheeky Say the Best for Last hit, which results in a quick down after. Tinkerer also lets you know typically when the last gen is about to be done, so that you can show up there and make it very, very difficult for them to immediately open the gates. And if they are delayed on the gates, they will find out that you have no way out, and probably at that point, someone will be dead, you'll have lots of stacks, and you can probably make a comeback even if the game didn't go your way. Super simple build that you can play and expect to do well with in most maps with. Next up, Corrupt Intervention. Block away the nearby gens and be ready to beat someone in the middle of the map. Once you go into chases, you have Bamboozle in case you want to block nearby any strong window that you think they're going to abuse. But there's other chasing perks that also work fine and you don't need Bamboozle. The aforementioned Say the Best for Last is great. Amaliers is a surprisingly good perk on him to see auras and prepare shreds around corners, but Bamboozle is also good if you want to try it out. And Calobrine and Eruption are a great combo. Anytime you kick a gen that they're being done, remember at the start they only have 4 gens, you now have a time ticking bomb that will explode when you down your next survivor, incapacitating anyone working on the gen and making the regression a little bit nicer. Very simple build. And this one right here is actually pretty evil. We have Discordance to bother multiple people at the start without making them go too much into the map and discover all the totems that we have around, and then Devour Hope and Undying. With these 2 totems around, no matter which totem they do first, the second one will be Devour Hope. And then you can defend it, and if you get Devour Hope, you can defend it with your portals. And if you hold your power or have a certain add-on called the Whistle, the purple add-on, you can defend passively this totem and have information if they're getting on it. So Devour Hope Undying can be very nasty. If on top of that, they somehow manage to destroy these totems, you have Pentimento, which you can then relight to make the gens slower, while you also split them apart with Discordance anytime they try to group up on a gen. Very strong Hex build, particularly strong with the right add-ons to support it. Next up is the Oni, and we have the exact same build as Plague for very similar reasons. Discordance and Tinkerer to conquer, divide and conquer. Find multiple survivors, harass them at a time, see if anyone is in a bad spot, get a hit on whoever you can, start to get your power. Once you get your power, you don't have to use it on an injured person. If you are not in an optimal place, Tinkerer will let you know where gens are being done so that you can go back there and bother maybe multiple people on a gen, get multiple downs. Awesome stuff. Deadlock also blocks gens passively, and as we always say, Tinkerer has a nice synergy with it, because if a Tinkerer is going off, you know that there's not going to be multiple Tinkerers making 2 gens pop at the same time. You won't have to be in 2 places at once, but with how fast you can get with this killer, you almost can. At the end of the game, you also have no way out. If you've gotten a few hooks, exit gates will take longer to open, and you can make big comebacks during that time. But you can also change this perk for something more conventional or something else that you like. Another idea with this killer is to have Lethal Pursuer. You will see everyone at the start of the match, and maybe pick a person that's not in the best spot so that you can get that first hit early. Once you down a survivor, you're simply going to look for white hooks, and if you get one, you'll get Pain Resonance, minus regression on the most advanced gen, and maybe Deadman Switch triggering at the same time, which will make people not able to work on gens for a little bit. When that unhook happens, you will have massive information from Floods of Rage, which can be used in conjunction with your power. So you can down a survivor, far away from a hook, the unhook happens, and now you see everyone else and have a good idea what everyone else is, and you can decide if you want to pick up or if you want to stay on your power and then go on a rampage. Very, very strong stuff. And a more classic build includes Corrupt Intervention, force survivors to come into the middle of the map by blocking the furthest gens. Monitor and Abuse will make your turret radius smaller, but when it's in chase, it will be bigger. When you down a survivor in chase, Infectious Fright will now have a 40-meter range of telling you what's going around you in your vicinity. And Barbecue and Chili will tell you what people are doing in the far distances. And if you approach them in that far distance, you will make it more sneaky with Monitor and Abuse. So you have a build that is super simple, that tells you the information and makes it a little bit harder for survivors to know exactly where you're coming from. Awesome stuff. Next up, Deathslinger. We have Discordance. We want to bother multiple survivors. We cannot be at 2 places at once. And it's actually very beneficial for this killer to bother multiple survivors for a number of reasons. So Discordance lets you find multiple survivors. By sheer necessity, one of those survivors is not going to be the obsession. And we're going to stick to those survivors to get Save the Best for Last. With Save the Best for Last, you can do very nasty things on Deathslinger. You can hit a survivor, recover in very little time and then immediately shoot them, reel them, hit them again, and keep building up those stacks. If you find the obsession and you're forced to injure them, you can break your chain to avoid losing stacks. So you gain stacks 2 at a time and only lose them 2 at a time for 1 hit on the obsession. Pretty good deal, makes you very, very strong in the middle game. It also makes you very strong if you constantly harass the gens that survivors are grouping on, since you find them with discordance, and regress them with jolt anytime you take a down. And then you can have no way out, no it, or whatever other stalling or endgame perk you'd like to keep this build a bit more all around solid. Another idea is to go with the one-ball combo of Agitation and Starstruck. You pick up a survivor, have a big terror radius, carry them really, really fast, and now everyone in that terror radius is susceptible to a one-shot. Very, very nasty stuff. Obviously, if they get one-shot, Jolt that doesn't have a cooldown will make gens around them regress very quickly, which is awesome. You don't have to worry about kicking them. And then if you don't find anyone, you can always just use the Agitation speed to get to a white hook and have Pain Resonance trigger, which keeps the furthest which keeps the most progress gen regressing no matter how far they are in the map. Good stuff. Another idea that you can go with is one that we've already suggested on the pick, which is to go with very nasty insta-down hexes. Maybe even back them up by Throw the Hunt, so that cleansing them is even harder, and have a plan B with Pentimento. Very, very nasty. If you get your first few hooks going and get a few stacks, survivors will need to do this. And if they wait too long, it could be really nasty. Throw the Hunt could also be replaced by Hunt the Ground, which would be a nasty surprise, which could trigger multiple times with Undying. Or if you want to just play it safer, you could also bring Deadlock to just have a more solid, reliable build that doesn't have as many hexes. Either way, know your add-ons with this killer and make sure that your perks and your add-ons are going hand in hand, and you can have many more options than what I just showed you. Next up is the Executioner, and I have 2 builds that are almost the same that I'm going to present to you. My favorite of the 2 is Lethal plus Ameliers with the passive stall and slowdown from Deadlock, which blocks away gens, doesn't let survivors do gens as efficiently as they'd like, which is really, really strong if you tunnel a person out of the game, by the way, which is something that you can do with this killer a lot. And No Way Out. No Way Out is a bit tricky because you have to hook survivors and this killer can cage them. But as long as you hook them once, that's good enough. So you can do cage, hook, or hook, cage, or cage, hook, or whatever. And you get 1 stack on this and you have a really good chance in the endgame to come back. And Deadlock, of course, is just there slowing things down until that happens. Lethal lets you know where people are at the start. Sometimes with range add-ons, if you get close enough, you can hit people through walls before they even know that you're there, or that you know where they are. And it also extends the time that Ameliers works. Ameliers lets you see survivors through walls when they vault windows or pallets. And with this killer, it can result in some really fun and interesting hits, which is great if you're learning. If you're gonna go with something a little bit more standard, that is not so auto focused, you can also simply replace these 2 first perks for Discordance and Tinkerer. Discordance and Tinkerer gives you tons of information and even some slight stealth, so that you know when to cage, when to hook. Sometimes you cage and you have Tinkerer, so you show up where the cage is or where the gen is and mess with them because they don't know you're coming. So it gives you a lot of info and even the ability to catch them off guard, which is great. With Tinkerer, you can also get close to a gen and hit with your range punishment of the dam, and sometimes hit 2 people on a gen with it that didn't realize you're coming. And then Deadlock and No Way Out are also good, but if you're gonna go with Tinkerer, maybe No It is even more powerful, since you will be probably there when the last gen is about to be done and you can do a lot of damage with it. If you want to go for a less, how do I put it? A less endgame oriented build, Corrupt is also a great idea. You only have to worry about a few gens at the start. We have the combo of Calobrine and Eruption, which means that gens that you can regress fast and can incapacitate survivors when you down someone else. And also Tinkerer to just keep track of gens. You go on a chase and it takes too long and you think you're making a mistake with Corrupt Intervention. Maybe Tinkerer triggers and now you know where else to go. You get a hit, maybe you kick the gen, now you get a down, and the game is now stalled in your favor. Next up is Blight. And Blight is a really strong killer with a lot of different options and add-ons, and lots of things are viable on him. If you want to go with a stupid, simple build that anyone can run, I recommend this. Lethal. You see where they are at the start, immediately pick your best target that maybe even gives you a first hit or a first down really early on. Barbecue and Chilo, you hook survivors. Now, thanks to lethal, you see them for an extra 2 seconds for a total of 6 seconds. Know where to go and where to bother them. Deadlock, if you make survivors split out from gens, will hurt their efficiency a lot without you having to do anything. And No Way Out gives you a perfect chance to come back if you have hooked multiple survivors and don't have anyone killed, and endgame can still turn in your favor. Simple build that you've seen repeated basically on Nurse already. If you want to be more gen kiki, more gen control focus, this build might be up your alley. It has Corrupt Intervention, block the nearest gen, force them to come towards you. They will probably group up on a gen and maybe let you know that they're about to be done with Tinker. And then you can simply kick that gen to apply Eruption and Call O'Brien, make the gen regress fast, you down someone else, bang, that gen goes back. And now they're useless if they were working on it because of the incapacitated status. Strong, powerful things. And if you prefer a different approach, this one could also work. It's a bit different, but the principles are not that different. We have Discordance. Find multiple group survivors, which is great. With Discordance, you are also more likely to bother someone that is exhausted with Fearmonger and doesn't have their Spring Burst. So you will have a higher chance to catch maybe a Meg with Spring Burst that can't run away and get a free hit on her. Once you down her, you're going to take her to a white hook. You'll hook her on that white hook. Anyone working on a generator will not see the aura of the survivor being hooked, which means that they will not let go of the gen. Possibly. And when you hook them, that gen will explode with Pain Res and then get blocked by Deadman Switch. Ouch. Ouch. Because Fearmonger makes people working on a generator blind. It makes it harder for solos and even teams to play around the Deadman Switch Pain Res combo. So this can be quite deadly as well. But again, tons of options on Blight. Just make sure you have some info perks so that you know what to do with your speed. Next up, we have the Twins. Tricky killers that cannot use many perks, but Discordance and Deadlock are some of the ones that they can use. Discordance is a perk that even Victor, while he's being controlled, can actually hear. You don't see the yellow thing, but you do see the notification. So it's a nice perk to bother multiple groups of survivors, which is necessary to keep the game in your favor. If you split them up and they start to do gens one by one, Deadlock will buy you valuable time without having to do much. Victor can also see the aura of Deadlock, so he can identify which gens getting locked to maybe make a play on the go. And then we have Eruption. If there is a gen that you're contesting, you can kick it and then use a combination of Charlotte and Victor to down people across the map maybe and make that gen regress. Being incapacitated against Twins feels really, really bad. No Way Out is also a pretty standard perk that slows the game at the end without you having to go out of your way too very much. So it's a nice way to run this build up. Other options that I favor include using Pain Resonance and Gift of Pain. A Scorch Hook that we don't use on many killers, but that makes a lot of sense on this one because people definitely want to heal against the Twins. Staying injured against the Twins is a bad idea since Victor can quickly take down survivors one by one and make a big snowball happen. They'll want to heal when they get hooked, so this will slow them down in healing and slow down their gens afterwards. With Pain Resonance, you also slow down gens passively when you hook on white hooks and maybe even trigger Deadman Switch. So that they are slowed down even further. You will probably see what's going on though because you have Barbecue. With Barbecue, you can see people from afar, see them healing, see them on gens to know where to send Victor or where to move yourself to do the most damage. A different idea that can also work on Twins, it's a bit of a more unusual build, is a Forced Penance build to make healing very difficult. Even if they have medkits and boons, this build can sometimes help. We have Corrupt Intervention. We invite people to run into the middle of the map where we'll try to get some hits, maybe get rid of some pallets, get some people injured. Good. Once they are injured, if we have, once we pick up a survivor, Thrill and Tremors will block the gens that are not being worked on, and we can get close to the gens that are being worked on. Maybe people will try to take hits. If they try to take hits with agitation, you are very likely to hit them and still make the hook. And if they take hits while you carry, it also applies Forced Penance. Forced Penance will help you a lot as the Twins because survivors that are healthy will often try to protect against survivors that are injured from you or from Victor. And Forced Penance keeps them injured for a very long time. If you have two people with Forced Penance, half the team is useless and cannot come for a save or come for a body block, and then you can send Victor on a little hitman mission to take them out one by one, even if they have medkits, even if they have Boon Circle of Healing. So it's a nice build that is easily customizable. Any perk you don't like here, you can just swap it out for something that makes sense. But Forced Penance is actually a unusually effective perk on Twins. Next up, Trickster, and I love this build. The idea of this build is that throughout the match, you are going to see random people with Undying and people when you open a locker. Anytime you reload, Darkness of Heal will show you where people are. You can even do this at the start of the game if you're lost. And really, really critically, people don't expect this perk. It's not like Barbecue, it's not like Tinkerer that it triggers at a set time where they know about it. People sometimes are next to you or near you, and you open the locker, you see them hiding behind a rock, you get there, and the killer that deals with people in bad spots the best is Cannibal, Trickster, Huntress. That's what you're looking at. Trickster is just so good at destroying survivors that think they're safe hiding in behind a rock or something. So Darkness of Heal gives you tons of information throughout the match while you're doing your thing and you're reloading. If you catch a survivor in the open, or not so in the open, if you injure them, Blood Favorable Trigger will block the pallets around you, leaving only windows, which makes them a bit more predictable. And this is really nasty. This can make a survivor completely unable to do anything if you land your knives well enough. They might try to get rid of this perk, but then you have Undying to protect it. So you have a very aggressive chase perk, something to protect it, a bit of info, and then a bit of stall. The final perk can be a number of things. I've run this build with No Way Out, which lets you just have a bit more time in the endgame and makes a lot of sense. But Deadlock is also a great perk to just passively slow down the game. If you want to, you could also add Pentimento into the mix so that if they do multiple totems, you can then use Pentimento to slow them down even more. You could replace this perk with Pentimento or Darkness of Heal with Pentimento if you already feel confident on the information that you have on the match. And this build is very nasty. Highly recommended. A more conventional build would have something like this. Corrupt Intervention, force people to not do gens on the start, come closer to you. Deadlock, passively slow on the game. Barbecue and Chili, see what's far away from you so that you know when to commit to go into a certain gens and not to wander around the map wasting time. And No Way Out, or Iron Maiden, or anything else that you like to speed up the game in your favor or slow down or stall them at the end of the game. Build like this can be perfectly good. If you want to be protected against strong structures like Shack, especially if you don't have very good add-ons and you don't know how to play around them yet, Bamboozle is not a terrible choice. Bamboozle can make survivors have to drop pallets and have to use other resources and go away from strong windows where you sometimes struggle to catch up. And Tinkerer is also an easy perk to let you know where people are. You still have a lullaby, but most people will not identify that you're coming if you are subtle enough with your approach. So Tinkerer Bamboozle will let you know where people are, and if you have White Hooks, Pain Resonance, and Deadman Switch can work in unison to delay those gens and maybe even block them. So if you want to think very, very little about what you do, this could be an appropriate build for that. Next up, we have Nemesis. Discordance is key on Nemesis. I think it's a really, really stupid strong perk. It will tell you where multiple people are. And if you're a Nemesis, you know that that's very important because you want to hit 2 survivors at the start to quickly get out of tier 1 into tier 2. Alternatively, this also helps you find survivors that are not the obsession so that you can get Save the Best for Last stacks. Additionally, on top of that, it also makes survivors split up, which makes Deadlock even more effective. So for many reasons, Discordance is good on Nemesis. On top of that, it also attracts zombies. So 2 survivors on a gen will make Discordance trigger, and zombies nearby will now be attracted to that gen. Awesome perk on Nemesis. Deadlock will slow down the game. As we mentioned, Save the Best for Last is a tricky perk. Watch out. Do not focus exclusively on just M1ing people. This perk will not carry you. You need to have a balance of using your whip and using this perk. And if you want to use an alternative and you don't want to use Save the Best for Last, Amaliers, which we'll talk about in a minute, is a decent idea. Endgame, we have No Way Out or Noed to bring things back into control. Simple build. Another alternative also includes Discordance and now has the wombo combo of Eruption and Call of Brine. As a Nemesis player, you don't have a lot of time to kick gens, but these perks make it kind of worth it because the gen regresses faster, which is awesome, especially if zombies are around. And if survivors get on it and you down someone else, bang! Now that gen loses progress and they become incapacitated. Amaliers is a perk that is kind of brilliant on Nemesis, and I didn't realize this until someone showed it to me recently. When a survivor takes you to a place where you're not very strong, say a jungle gym where you can't hit through the walls or anything, Amaliers allows you to do some mind game so that when a survivor vaults a window, you go around, force them back into the window, and then bang, do a sliding tentacle hit, a little drive-by to hit them through the window. So this perk helps you get downs in the places where you struggle the most. Places in the open where Amaliers doesn't work, you hit them with your tentacle. Closed places with tons of walls, line of sight blockers, Amaliers shines. So yeah, a pretty balanced build all around. Another idea is more oriented towards defending gens and having a strong endgame. Corrupt Intervention, block the gens, blah blah blah, get some hits early, get some chases early. We all understand how good this perk is. When a gen is about to be done, you zone in on them. Yes, you're not particularly stealthy, but it doesn't matter. You get close as a Nemesis, that makes a difference. If you harass people out of gens, or if your zombies harass them out of gens, Merciless Storm can block a gen passively and give you tons of time, which is awesome. And on top of that, if you are trying to harass the last gen, you are in a very good position to use Noid as well and make a comeback, even unfavorable endgame. And that's the options for Nemesis right now, I would say. Next up is the Cenobite. At Cenobite, honestly, you cannot go wrong with this double pair of perks. We have the Plaything and Pentimento idea. Now, Plaything is a scary perk. It makes survivors not be able to hear your terror radius. And some survivors can ignore this. In fact, you want them to not ignore this, because if they ignore this, Pentimento does nothing. Our idea is to make survivors oblivious, force them to do totems, and when they do totems, Pentimento can be then used to relight those totems and slow down the game massively. If Pentimento is up, gens are very slow, and the constant chain hunts that happen every X seconds will bother survivors a lot. The problem is, will survivors do the Plaything totems, or will they ignore them? Here's the thing, you can kind of force them to. If survivors are all oblivious, they don't know when to pick up the cube, because they don't know exactly where you are. So you will sometimes have instances where a survivor that is oblivious picks up the cube, you're right next to it, they start to do it, they have no idea that you're close. Obviously they're oblivious when they pick it up, but before they pick it up, they're also oblivious because of Plaything, and bam, now you interrupt them, you pick up the cube, everyone else is in trouble. And then on top of that, we have Pain Resonance and Deadman Switch. Anytime we get to a white hook, the gen with most progress regresses and even gets blocked. And sometimes gens will get blocked by Deadman Switch just from the random chains that appear during chain hunts. So you have a very, very simple build that is extremely easy to follow and very formulaic that can be a good place to start. Another idea is to use Lethal Pursuer, an incredibly good perk on this killer if you really know what you're doing. If you know your position, which you obviously do, and the survivor's position, which you can see with Lethal Pursuer, you can actually use that information to triangulate where the box has spawned. If you constantly pick up the box and harass it out of survivors, they will have a big problem to deal with. They will be slowed down. They won't be able to do gens. They won't be able to do their normal healing, especially with Sloppy. Imagine that you're healing your 99 heal, and then you get hit by the survivor picking up the killer picking up the cube, and now that progress goes back to nothing because of hemorrhage. And then on top of that, we have the aforementioned Pain Resonance, slow down gens, and Floods of Rage, which will let you, honestly, this perk is amazing by itself, but it will last 2 seconds longer thanks to Lethal, and it will also let you see where everyone is so that you can maybe catch the person picking up the cube throughout the game. Nasty, nasty build. Another perk to find people picking up the cube is Hoarder, a perk that doesn't work very well on other killers, but it's actually really, really good on this killer because of its massive range. In most maps, if you're sitting in the middle, any survivor picking up the cube will let you know where they are because this perk will identify them. If they are very, very far, you can figure out where they are by elimination. So if I'm in one corner and I don't hear Hoarder and I see in the HUD that someone picks up the cube, I know that they're far away, so I start going there and I start harassing them and I start messing with them, messing with the cube, getting hooks, getting someone killed. That alone is really, really powerful. And then on top of that, we have passive slowdown from Deadlock, passive stall from No Way Out, and a chance to down multiple of them in the endgame with Noid. Nasty, nasty build, also relatively easy to use. And if you have other builds that go hand in hand with this killer's add-on, you're more than welcome to share them with me. Next up, Artist. Artist has the unique ability to harass people out of gens from very far away and make gens very, very difficult to do. Barbecue in this is instrumental. When you hook a survivor, you're gonna look at the gens in the distance and send birds whatever you think or whatever Barbecue tells you to make Deadman Switch trigger, slowing them down, and also maybe allowing you to do a follow-up bird and get it down. Pain Resonance also works really well here. It works really well with Deadman Switch. Sometimes they will be harassed out of a gem with Pain Resonance, even if you don't send any birds. And then you have Deadlock to slow down the game even more. Nasty, nasty build. All focused around just harassing gens from a distance. This build is slightly different in its approach, but has a similar thought behind it. Deadlock will make gens not pop at the same time so that you have more time to deal with them one-on-one. Tinkerer will let you know when a gen is about to be done, and if you time your approach or your birds right, you can interrupt survivors while they are doing Merciless Storm, which will make them miss the skill checks and have the gen block for a long time. This will buy you tons of time through the mid game, and in the end game, if Tinkerer lets you know when the last gen's being done, you can also show up there and then suddenly have Noed and have a really good chance to wipe out whatever survivors remain in your tile. Another idea here that I also quite like is to use the combination of Discordance and Thrilling Tremors. Your idea here is that you're going to try to bother multiple survivors. If you have the Severed Hand add-ons, you can actually do double hits. I made a video about this if you ever want to check it out, but with this add-on, you can actually send two birds really close to each other, and because of some strange interaction, you can damage survivors with two very close birds. So Discordance and Severed Hands go hand in hand, kinda. Thrilling Tremors is also exciting, because when you down a survivor, you can send birds to all the gens that you think are being done, and when survivors get out of those gens to get rid of the birds, especially if there's two of them and they both have to get out of it thanks to Severed Hands, you can now pick up the survivor and that gen gets blocked. So imagine a survivor, they're doing a gen, their friend goes down, they get hit by a bird, they get off to get rid of the bird, and now the gen gets blocked. Really, really nasty. When you make it to that gen, you can then use Eruption to regress it even more and harass it even more, or Pop Goes the Weasel or some other gen kicking perk like Cannibal would also fit right here. And then you can have No Way Out to have a more balanced build around the end game as well, or whatever other perk you like. Lots of options and artists, you'll find all of them fun and effective. Next up, Onryo. I'm not gonna lie, Onryo is a very difficult killer to play. Sometimes, depending how you play her, what add-ons and what playstyle you have, your build will change dramatically and nothing can feel right, or even conventionally good perks can feel wrong. But this build has a little bit of everything going for it. With Discordance, you have a chance to bother multiple, 3, maybe all 4 survivors, and have a better chance to at least catch one of them with an ambush using your stealth. Awesome stuff. It's also a good idea to teleport if you're far away to a generator with Discordance to inflict condemn on multiple people, which is a good thing. You can then kick that gen with Eruption, which will make it lose even more progress if you down someone else later. Spoilers, you will. And then we have the really nasty and unusual combination of Cannibal and Dragon's Grip, which is a win-win situation for us. We're going to kick that gen, and we're going to go for someone else, maybe someone injured. If someone healthy shows up and touches the gen, Dragon's Grip will make that healthy person insta-downable, which for Sadako is a big deal because she could be right there. You can kick a gen, hide next to it, and get an insta-down. It's huge and helps a lot in the early game while you desperately need that first down, and survivors are very willing to just play it safe. They think that they're playing it safe and they walk right into your trap. Let's say that survivors are smart and none of them touch the generator. Then Cannibal will simply eat up that generator and make it regress even faster. Good stuff. Difficult to play around and very, very good in the early game. Solid build all around. A different approach that is very good for condemn playstyles is to bring Discordance, Fearmonger, Say the Best for Last, and Jolt. Discordance, again, lets you find multiple people. Since they will be exhausted and blind, they are even more likely to at least have one of them be in a bad spot that lets you ambush them. And the new perks in this build are Say the Best for Last, which lets you recover faster. If you find multiple people from Discordance, one of them won't be the obsession, so go for that person. And then makes you really, really strong in the middle game when you recover very fast. Say the Best for Last also allows you to interrupt survivors putting their tapes in and maybe even try to harass them into being fully condemned, but that's a whole other playstyle. Obviously, if you're down in people, Jolt will make gens around you regress, which is awesome. You don't have to worry about kicking them very much. And that's pretty much it. Very simple build, works pretty well in most maps. Another idea that you might want to put on if you really, really just don't want to think very much. Have Corrupt. This is the most lazy build imaginable. Corrupt Intervention, block away the furthest gens, catch someone in the open. Deadlock, block away gens being done, no need to worry about it. Noid, insta down people. Noid is actually a really nasty perk on this killer, especially with the iridescent tape, since you can down a survivor, get your power back, teleport to a gate, hit a survivor there, then teleport back, hook the first one. So Noid is actually quite a nasty perk on her. And No Way Out can also help you tie things together at the end of the game and make Noid all the more annoying. So if you want a lazy build in Sadako, this could help you out. Next up is the Dredge, a difficult killer that honestly requires a lot of thought in your strategy and your add-on loadout to be in synchrony with your builds. I'll give you one that I think is very simple. Jolt, make gens around you regress and begin to go down. Simple. Pain Resonance, make gens far away begin to regress, and you will probably catch that with Barbecue and Chili. The fact that we also have Sloppy Butcher means that people would take longer to heal, and they won't heal as quickly. They won't immediately heal next to you because Sloppy makes a healing being able to be interrupted, and then you lose the progress. They will want to go far away for you to heal, and that's where Barbecue will help you out. You'll see people begin to heal far away from you, and maybe have the chance to interrupt them appearing next to them, or see them on a generator that you just regress with Pain Resonance, giving you a chance to catch them off guard as well. So very simple build: close regression, far regression, information, anti-healing. Bang. This is the build that I used to get my streak on Dredge to double digits. Nothing super impressive, but it's actually quite nasty. Deadlock to slow down gens being completed at the same time. Tinkerer, so that you can focus on individual gens. Super helpful, being able to teleport to a gen that you know is about to be done. And then Noid. Noid on this killer is actually really nasty. If you can sit on a locker or to increase your time, or get a bunch of hits, or get a bunch of hooks to make your time happen at the moment that the last gen is about to be done, and you will know when that is happening because of Tinkerer, you can down a survivor, and then leave them on the ground or hook them quickly, and then teleport around the map. And anytime you hit a locker, you will hear a heartbeat if survivor's next to you. And then you can come out and use Noid on them. If not, teleport to the next one, hear a heartbeat, come out now. So you can do a lot of cleanup, a lot of clutch plays, thanks to Noid, No Way Out combo. So yeah, simple stuff as well. And then we have this combination. We have Corrupt Intervention, force survivors to not do gens at the start. They'll probably start locking lockers instead and wasting a bit of time. And then the combination of Jolt to regress nearby gens, Pain Resonance to regress gens when you hit on a white hook, and Surveillance, which will let you know which gens are being hit and let you identify which ones are being touched so that you can go back and forth and harass them. Simple gen control build, but again, lots of options on this killer if you want to really go into add-ons and make a build that suits your add-on choice. And now we reach the final killer, the Mastermind. And this build that I'm going to present right here is a bit odd, but honestly works like an absolute charm. At the start, try to find a survivor, try to get into a chase. If you down a survivor before a gen hits Tinkerer, awesome. If not, that's all right. You're going to try to show up there and hit it with the combination of Pop and Eruption, which I found very, very effective on him. Your idea is that anytime a gen is about to be done, you're going to try to show up there and kick it with Pop and Eruption, or at least just Eruption. Then you're going to back and forth between survivors until one person's in a bad spot. You can use your power to down them, and then that gen regresses. So you're going to be defending gens one by one by harassing them, kicking them, sometimes multiple of them at a time, and then trying to see who's most likely to go down. This has helped so much in my games. You always know what to do with this build. If you have a survivor on the hook and everyone else is hiding, you begin to kick every single gen that you see. A new gen in the distance pops up and you know that that person is injured. You show up there. Maybe you get them with Tinkerer. You know that they're healthy. Maybe you give that up. You stick around the hook. Now they unhook. Someone goes down. Bam. 3 gens that were hit by Eruption suddenly lose progress, and now you have a 3 gen. Lots of little ideas. And then with Tinkerer, you will also likely know when the last gen is about to get on, so that you can perhaps just know it as a little bit of help. One really nice thing about Eruption on Wesker is that you don't give up a chase. On other killers that are slow, if you stay on a gen and a survivor runs away and then you kick it, that survivor is difficult to catch up to now because you wasted a couple seconds kicking a gen. This killer doesn't quite work like that. You can kick a gen and then use your power to catch up to a survivor, or catch up to the gen, kick it, and not give survivors enough time to react and get away early enough. So Eruption is really nice. Tinkerer gives you great information. Pop is surprisingly good with Eruption. People have a gen 99. They really want to finish it. You hit it with Pop. Now they get back on it thinking that they really have it, and bam. That 20% of current progress, which is maybe 10, 15 seconds, whatever, that 10%, that 20% gives you time to get another down and make that Eruption trigger on that person really desperate to finish that. Super lovely build. A little bit unconventional, granted, to use Pop in this patch. And if you want something else, I got it for you. We now have an even more unconventional build running Deadlock. Deadlock will make sure that gens don't pop too close to each other, giving you a bit of breathing time between chases, which is good. We don't have a lot of help at the early game, so this build has that weakness. But anytime a gen gets completed, you have Coup de Grace, a perk from the twins that is actually quite underrated on Wesker. So Wesker can play around long open areas, sure. He can play around long walls and some windows, great. But then there's small pallets that are round and swappers go around them, and your power doesn't go around things like that. It's a very straight line type power, and that's where Coup de Grace shines. In places like that, Coup de Grace lets you get a hit on almost any middle filler pallet type. And in the bigger loops, you simply use your power where it shines. So with this, you have a great assisting tool to help you out. You will also have a great assisting tool in the end game where you'll have 1 or 2 stacks left probably, and then you get Noid. You move at a faster speed, you have a almost twice as long launch, and you have Noid, which insta-downs? Yeah. Whatever the case, however your game goes, in the end game, you can get a disgusting hit on a Survivor, immediately down him, and then have no way out, so Survivors have to worry about touching gates, which they might not do immediately, and finding Noid, which they might not find right away, on top of also having to worry about being slowed down by the virus and so on if they're dealing with that. Very nasty build, and if you don't like Coup de Grace, you could easily replace it for Bamboozle or some other chasing perk that is up your alley a bit more. And then this build is perhaps the most vanilla out of all of them. Corrupt Intervention, far away gens are being blocked. You don't have to worry about it too much. Have a bit more time to get a few hits. If you get a few injuries on people with your power, you will force them later to get rid of it through sprays, which will slow them down a bit, which is good for you. You then have Pain Resonance. If you get a hook on a Scorch Hook, the generator that has the most progress, that is most furthest advanced, will regress. If a survivor is caught on it, tada, that Switch will also block it, giving you information. And here's the beautiful part. When you go around the map and try to find someone, if you don't and they rescue, Floods of Rage will let you know where everyone else is on the map. And there is something to be said about Floods of Rage on Wesker that is really positive. How long are we? 1 hour and 30. We need to wrap it up. Floods of Rage on Wesker. This perk is great. Sometimes you hook one survivor, you go into the map and you're trying to look for the other survivor that is fully infected. Let's say that you hook Dwight and you see that Claudette is now orange in the HUD. That Claudette is insta-downable, but where is she? You don't know. They are probably opening a chest somewhere to get a first aid spray. This perk can show you exactly who you're looking for, so that you can find them if they're infected and catch them when they're fully infected for an easy insta-down, and then the cycle of Pain Res DMS repeats. So this is a very simple build if you want to go with that. That being said, we have now gone through all of the killers and I've given you my best approximation at what builds will help you out. You might be an insanely knowledgeable killer, and maybe you can share some of your wisdom too. If you found the build that is relevant to the current patch that you think would help, especially beginners, I would really appreciate it if you share it with me so that I can include it in the next video. I can include it in the spreadsheet that I like to update, or people can just read it from your comment. I would really appreciate it if you did that, and in either way, I really utterly appreciate that you watched this long. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one super soon, any day now.